All I wanna do is make love to you.
It was a place I knew well. We made magic that night. Yeah.
Yep. All I wanna do is make love to you.
Yep.
What's going on?
Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I'm JD.
And I am Joe.
And today we are throwing the Wolfman onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
I'm the
If you enjoy the taste of these pieces of fright, let us know by reviewing us wherever you consume your podcast. If you do the YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe, as well as click the bell.
Lycanthrope, subscribe.
You should also go to our website, wegiveYouBrainworms.com. There you can join our Discord server and the option to support the show directly via our Patreon link.
It's true.
And we'll appreciate you for it.
We'll give you a little pat on the head.
You could sit on Kane's lap and he'll feed you an ice cream.
You can tell him what you want for Christmas.
So yeah.
The Wolfman, yeah.
The Wolfman, 1941. Truly a sympathetic monster story. The Wolfman was released December 12th of 1941 with a runtime of 70 minutes and a budget of $180,000. Surprisingly, it only grossed worldwide $420,000. That's a rough estimate, but somewhere in that ballpark.
I mean, it earned its money back.
Yeah. I guess it just surprises me that for being such a well-known classic, that number seemed a little less to me than I would expect.
Right.
So, The Wolfman was directed by George Wagner, born September 7th of 1894 and left us December 11th of 1984. Wagner was a well-loved actor, producer, writer, and director of his time.
And a great kisser.
Magically. He's actually best known for The Wolfman, not his only horror credit, however. He also directed Man-Made Monster and Horror Island, also 1941. Wagner also directed a number of horror-related made-for-TV episodes, Destination Nightmare of 1958, Jack the Ripper, also 1958, and The Veil, again in 1958. And these episodes were part of an anthology series titled One Step Beyond. However, the series never aired. Today it is available on DVD, so if you're a giant George Wagner fan, we'll go on and get you some of that.
Sure.
Wagner also did 10 episodes of Batman, the 60s Adam West TV show.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. Wagner was also the producer of The Wolfman, and as far as producer credits go, that would include The Ghost of Frankenstein in 1942, Phantom of the Opera in 43, and The Climax in 1944. And that doesn't necessarily sound like a horror film to me, but all I know about it is that the plot is super long and thick, and its release was huge, and it brought on this giant wave of pleasure.
Nice.
And now, on to the plot of The Wolfman.
Yeah.
Not the giant bullshit remake starring Ryan Gosling.
It didn't look good. I didn't see it, but it didn't look good.
Yeah.
Is it actually out?
I don't know, but I read recently that that's a thing, and,
All right.
I don't know. I like Ryan Gosling.
Okay. Why?
I mean, he's a good actor.
Yeah, right. I'm fine with Ryan Gosling. I don't really have an opinion about him. But modern remakes of classic horror films do tend to be very bad.
Yeah, I'm a little salty over it, but whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, first off, when you make a modern horror movie, all right?
Yeah.
And on the top of your list of actors that should be involved is fucking Tom Cruise or John Travolta,
Right.
you're fucking it up to begin with.
You've made a mistake.
Yeah, that is true.
Don't get me wrong. I appreciate Tom Cruise's acting chops.
Sure.
He's been in some movies where I was like, holy shit, he did a really good job. But him being in The Mummy was terrible.
Yeah, I am a little sad that the Dark Universe never took off, just because I would have been interested in seeing like what direction that took. But The Mummy was not a good way to start it up.
No, it wasn't good at all.
There was a werewolf movie that came out a number of years ago that interested me, and I believe it was Benicio del Toro that was the werewolf.
No, it was The Wolfman. It's a remake.
I know, but did you see it? Was it good?
I mean, I saw it. It was gory.
He just looks like he would turn into an awesome-looking werewolf.
Yeah, I can see Benicio del Toro being a good Wolfman.
My biggest issue is the CGI.
Yeah.
I think that we should probably keep going, though.
Eh.
Or we're going to get bogged down because Anthony Hopkins was in the Wolfman, the 2010 Wolfman.
Oh, no shit.
And he was a pretty good Sir Talbot, Sir John.
But that's what you'd expect from Hopkins. He just kind of pisses excellence.
Yeah, he always brings it.
I mean, Claude Raines. Claude Raines was a fucking awesome Sir John.
Claude Raines is the Invisible Man.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
know, Joe. Fuck. He was in a lot of movies.
So yeah, the plot of The Wolfman goes something like, we are greeted by Larry Talbot.
Played by the infamous / famous Lon Chaney Jr.
Hell yeah.
And he returns home to his family somewhere in Wales to help settle affairs in connection with his recently deceased brother and attempt to make amends with his estranged father, Sir John Talbot. In this process, Larry finds himself distracted. He has a telescope and misuses it grotesquely.
Yeah, that's what he bought it for.
Well, it's... he was focused on a different star, I guess.
Woof.
Anyway, that heartthrob of his became who we knew to be Gwen, who owned a fancy little antique shop.
Her folks owned it, but Gwen was played by Evelyn Ankers.
So, in attempt to prove to Gwen that Larry's got the magic stick, he grabs a cane decorated with a silver wolf's head as a handle.
So we're not going to talk about how fucking creepy he was.
He was very creepy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. It's kind of cringy. He was not taking no for an answer.
He sucked.
We need to unpack it.
Just walking into this store and aggressively hitting on the woman.
It's not just that.
Mm.
He starts off by putting together a telescope,
Right.
which he aims at the sky 0 times.
And spies directly through her bedroom window.
Yup.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Yep. And then he proceeds to go to the store that she runs.
Claims to be a psychic.
Well, first he's like, I would like these. And he describes earrings that she was wearing upstairs, right?
As he was spying on her. Yeah.
And it's just fucking creepy, and it's cringy, and it's gross. And he does not take no for an answer multiple times. So much so that, he ends up showing up later to pick her up to go to the Romani gathering where they're going to do fortune telling and stuff. It's even worse to me because she's waiting for him.
Yeah. Well, she was waiting for her friend, really. I think he just popped into the picture.
That's not true at all. She was obviously, she brought a friend along, but she was obviously like, this fucking creep is not going to go away.
She probably brought her friend along because that guy was fucking creepy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. She's like, Jenny, I need you to come. This fucking creep will not leave me alone. He's going to be here at 8 o'clock no matter what. Can you back me up? And then Jenny rolls up and they're like, okay. And then they lock arms, all 3 of them, and go have fun getting their fortune told.
So I'm going to rewind it just a pinch back to where Gwen goes on with some bullshit about werewolves and explains, this is back in their shop, their little antique store.
Oh, yeah.
This is where we get some background on the werewolf.
In the poem.
Yes, exactly.
That we hear like 10 times.
Oh, yeah, it's on repeat. And so, yeah, she explains how werewolves will see a pentagram on the palm of their next victim. And there's a werewolf poem to go along with it.
Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright.
Yeah.
Very nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I had it written down a little differently.
Later in time, it was the full moon. They changed it. There wasn't a full moon requirement in the first Wolfman movie, but in the subsequent sequels, they added in, under a full moon, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the moon became a priority.
Like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
They had to nerf the Wolfman for balance reasons.
Well, no, they had to make it an excuse for why Larry Talbot comes back from the dead. So they did Frankenstein meets Wolfman. A full moon comes and resuscitates Larry Talbot, and he's looking for a cure. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But they switch it. Instead of the autumn moon is bright, it's the moon is full and bright. But in this movie, it's the autumn moon is bright.
So despite Gwen shooting Larry down multiple times, the pair end up meeting up later that night along with Gwen's friend named Jenny.
Jenny was actually played by Faye Helm.
And her phone number was 867-5309.
And believe it or not, there is absolutely not a threesome in Larry's future. However, the fortune teller Bela,
Who was played by Bela Lugosi.
the legendary Bela Lugosi, yes, he has a freak out moment when he notices a pentagram in Jenny's palm and sends her off frantically. Larry and Gwen, though, they have a quaint little moonlit stroll.
An awkward tree standing moment.
Yeah, that's true. Gwen drops the bomb on Larry. Gwen's engaged to be wed. And suddenly they hear Jenny scream as she's being attacked by a wolf. Larry rushes in to Jenny's aid and begins beating the shit out of this wolf with his new walking stick.
He really does.
And you mentioned during the watch party, like, what an excellent physical actor Lon Chaney Jr. was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Lon Chaney's great.
After he gets bitten, you feel like, oh shit, Lon Chaney accidentally got bitten by that dog.
Right. So yeah, in their battle, Larry is bitten on the chest. So when the fuzz come through, they find Jenny dead with her throat torn out, and Bella, who'd been violently bashed over the head, presumably with Larry's walking stick. And now Larry is in a world of shit. The police are suspicious.
I mean, not really. You're selling it wrong.
Well, you know, their inept investigation points them staggering lazily in Larry's direction, but, you know.
No. He tells them he thought he beat a wolf to death. And his father is like, look, all right, it was dark. You know, his friend had just been attacked by a wolf, and then he accidentally beat that Romani man to death. Could happen to anyone. And they're basically like, yeah, you're right. And they just leave it. They drop it.
We could unpack that, but...
Wait, he was a rich aristocrat.
Yeah.
And he beat a Romani fortune teller to death.
And just got away with it. No consequences.
Not even interrogated.
No, officer, it was I saw a wolf, I swear. And then
Okay.
The whole thing goes away.
Yeah, they even give him the fucking murder weapon back.
Yup.
Like, oh, well, here's this stick you used to beat that man to death. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Don't forget your walking stick, yeah.
Exactly.
But Larry, he can't substantiate a fucking thing. Miraculously, however, his chest wound healed while he slept.
Overnight.
And so now they also kind of believe that Gwen is banging Larry, who's not a married woman, mind you, but they're judging her hard anyway.
Because it was the 40s. People sucked. I mean, they suck now, but I feel like they sucked more in the 40s.
They sucked a lot more, yeah. So yeah, Frank knows Gwen. He believes her, and Larry didn't do anything together. Frank was Gwen's fiance, by the way. Do we get who played Frank?
No, you don't.
So despite the pair being labeled adulterers / local pariahs, poor Gwen and Larry...
I lied. Patrick Knowles played Frank.
Patrick Knowles. Very good, very good. We meet Maleva, who is Bella's mother, and she reveals to Larry that the wolf who he stomped the lasagna out of was actually Bella, who'd taken the temporary form of a wolf.
Maleva was played by Maria Ospinskaya, and she had an amazing poem, way better than even a man that says his prayers, whatever.
And spoken in just a reflective, droning...
Yeah, the way you walked was thorny, through no fault of your own. But as the rain enters the soil, the river enters the sea, so tears run to a predestined end. Your suffering is over. Now you will find peace for eternity.
Awesome.
She does that when she finds her son's body. And she does a slight variation of that version when she finds a trapped Lon Chaney as the werewolf.
Larry also learns that silver is the only thing that can kill a werewolf.
It's true.
Maleva, she's all right, though. She gives Larry a protective amulet to prevent him from wolfing out.
Which he immediately doesn't use.
Yeah. The whole movie could have been avoided if he had just not been a dumbass.
Yeah.
Well, he seemed unsure of Maleva, but she couldn't have been more accurate. Anyway, uncertain if he believed her shit or not, Larry dishes the pendant off to Gwen. Because after all, he's in love and aims to protect her. and he's still very creepy.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say he aims to protect her whether she wants him to or not.
Exactly. Fuck you, Lawrence Talbot.
Exactly. Just as Maleva warned, Larry wolfs out the following eve and tears up a villager.
To pieces.
Yeah. They leave a lot to imagination in these films,
They do.
which is something that I enjoy quite a bit. So yeah, the next morning, Larry wakes up like, dude, where's my car? The authorities, they all believe the killing to have been committed by a wolf. So naturally, they set up traps and form a search party. The next night, Larry wolfs out again and gets caught in a trap. Maleva has his back, though, and uses a spell to return Larry to his human form so the police and hunting party don't go fucking him up. Larry he's torn inside. He's down in the dumps on account of being a werewolf. He's not in love with the idea of being a killer, you know? So he gets all pissy and decides to skip town.
Like that's going to stop him from being a killer.
Yeah, you're still a werewolf.
Yeah, he's just gonna go somewhere else and kill other people.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but his father would be less embarrassed, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to disappoint Daddy, so...
Exactly.
So when he says his goodbyes to Gwen, he spots a pentagram on her palm, and now his anxiety is through the roof. And he tells his dad that he's a werewolf, and that he unknowingly has murdered Bella and the villager.
Bella and the Villagers is a pretty good band name.
Oh, well, that's what this podcast does. It's almost like a band name generator.
Sure.
So his dad believes him to have several cards short of a deck and ties his silly ass to a chair. His dad thinks he will prove to Larry that, you know, he's full of hops and shit, so whichever comes out first. Sure enough, though, the moon rises and Larry wolfs out a final time. # foreshadowing.
Yeah, breaks the shit out of those bonds.
Oh, he sure does. He breaks free from the restraints and pursues Gwen.
Mhm.
Like a Duran Duran song.
Nice.
Larry's father spots him and has no idea the wolf is actually his own son, so he uses Larry's walking stick with the little silver wolf head number to bludgeon him over the coconut.
To death.
So Maleva shows up again, but this time just a shade late as she turns to magic yet again, transforming Larry back to human form.
His death transformed him back. She was just there to bear witness.
Oh, I kind of thought that her presence was magic enough to... Oh, gotcha. So anyway, yeah, Sir John and Gwen are captivated in horror by his transformation.
Mhm.
Larry unleashes his mortal coil on the spot, and the curse of the werewolf dies along with him.
That's not true.
Well, at least for the werewolf it is. I know there are many sequels.
At least in this specific movie,
Yeah.
because Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, we pick up right after
Right.
the events of this movie. And some wolfbane blooms and a full moon happens and Lon Chaney's werewolf wakes up.
Yeah.
This movie puts a lot of its energy into just keeping Larry from being embarrassed.
Because he really does a lot to embarrass himself.
Yeah, and the movie and the characters just go out of their way to stop him from just being in an awkward situation,
We got to get a little help from your friend sometime.
I guess.
The score was done by 3 people. It was Hans J. Salter, Frank Skinner, and Charles Previn. Joe, real quick, do you want to tell us about the cinematographer and the writer?
It'll take as long as it takes, you know.
Shut your fucking mouth.
Stop being abusive to Joe.
But yeah, no, I can do that for you. The cinematography was done by Joseph A. Valentine, an Italian cinematographer born in 1900 as Giuseppe Valentino, which I think is a much cooler name.
Yep.
Like many cinematographers from the kind of golden years or the early years of film, he got his start as a photographer before moving into the film industry. He did a lot of B-tier, sci-fi stuff before working with Alfred Hitchcock on the movies The Saboteur, Shadow of a Doubt, and Rope. His only other actual horror credit is Night of the Terror from 1933, which starred Bela Lugosi, who is dead.
Bela Lugosi's dead.
Undead, undead, undead.
Thank you. The writer was Kurt Siodmak, who has a doctorate in math and started out as an engineer before getting into journalism, which seems like an odd career change, but whatever, it worked out for this guy. His first exposure to the world of film happened in 1926 when he got himself hired as an extra on the film Transmetropolitan so that he could write an article about the director. He then moved from journalism into writing novels, and he wrote a science fiction film based on his first book, Floating Platform 1 Does Not Answer. And he was compelled to leave Germany because of the rise of the Nazi Party.
That's a good reason to get out.
It's a good reason, yeah. He moved first to England and then Hollywood, where a friend of his at Universal Pictures got him a job helping write The Invisible Man Returns, which got him into what he later referred to as the horror science fiction groove, which would be a good name for the first album from Bela and the Villagers.
Oh my God, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And then he wrote a shitload of C-tier horror sci-fi, like lots and lots of it, including The Ape, which is apparently about a kindly mad scientist, and I'm fuzzy about how that works. He also wrote I Walked with a Zombie, The Son of Dracula, and Donovan's Brain. So a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of like weird science,
Right.
movies about brains and robots and aliens.
There's a great song by Rocky Erickson titled I Walked with a Zombie.
And that's all I care to say about that. I am bored.
So we're on to the special effects, right?
Yep.
The special effects in this movie, it's a strange thing. They really only took place over the final moments of the film. Probably about 10 hours worth of laborious work went into the special effects makeup. And
About 10 seconds in all.
exactly, yeah. It's like 10 hours of work for about 10 seconds of movie.
Mm-hmm.
I owe our listeners a big apology for not speaking of one of the most crucial special effects makeup artists probably in the history of horror. All of that look that you see, the Wolfman, that was all constructed by makeup artist Jack Pierce. Jack Pierce also, and this is why my apology must be issued now, I didn't include him in the special effects talk about Frankenstein because Jack Pierce, he also designed the makeup for Frankenstein's monster. So anyway, yeah, Jack Pierce originally designed how the Wolfman would go in 1935 for actor Henry Hull in Werewolf of London.
Ooh.
Exactly. He wasn't having it, though, for various reasons, and fortunately so for the wild success of the Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney Jr. Some of the scenes in the Wolfman, specifically the scenes where they show his feet and his hands becoming hairier in stages, those feet and hands were assembled of hard rubber gloves and boots that were covered in yak hair. So it's possible that some yaks were harmed for the making of the Wolfman.
Right. They could have just shaved him.
It's possible. Jack Pierce, though, yeah, he was just an absolute legend. Born May 5th of 1889 and passed away July 19th of 1968. Known for a hot-ass temper and very complex relationships with a lot of the actors that he had applied makeup to. In particular, Lon Chaney Jr., they had some major falling out.
Well, wasn't that because Pierce would constantly fucking burn him with the hot iron he used to secure the makeup?
There were a lot of anecdotes. Lon Chaney Jr., supposedly there were times where he had made accusations sounding like that, so... And I don't know if Pierce was just trying to be this frantically working artist trying to make a deadline because the makeup took 10 hours, but I guess he required the person that he was applying the makeup to hold very, very still. And, imagine trying to do that for 10 hours. And he was known for being impatient, so Pierce would apply all of these sticky, rubbery latex materials with spirit gum. That was the standard adhesive topical at the time. And like I said, lots and lots of latex, and then, different types of makeup for what they thought would provide like a higher contrast look for the black and white film they had to work with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Pierce had 177 special makeup effects, total credits. Tons in the genre of horror, including classics such as Dracula from 1931, Frankenstein, also 31, White Zombie, The Mummy, The Invisible Man of 33, Bride of Frankenstein, and Werewolf of London, 1935. So yeah, Jack Pierce was quite a pioneer, especially with the facial application of latex and rubber pieces to create features on an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my whole spiel on the special. Wow, I can't say that word. Special effects.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
All right, well, let's talk about the personal experience with the film. Joe,
Yep.
start us off.
Yep. Again, I saw, a lot of the Universal horror films in the early to mid 90s. I feel like they had kind of a weird resurgence of popularity at that time. Talked about it last episode. I like the Wolfman. I don't have the same fondness for it as some of the other ones.
Right.
I don't feel like the characters are as likable. Wolfman's cool. I don't know. It's a classic. It's a piece of history in terms of what horror films were and what they became. I don't really have a lot to say about it.
Okay. JD.
Yeah, as far as my first impression with the Wolfman goes, I believe I saw this film for the first time on Chicago's local horror film hosts show, Sven Gulli. It must have been it. This was the time before DVDs. But anyway, I saw it on his show, Sven Gulli's show.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember not being that frightened by it because...
You had already seen stuff.
Yeah, I had seen some stuff by the time I got to the Universal Classics. But I still enjoyed it. I thought that it was kind of interesting the way, everyone spoke at that time. They all had these very strange accents. I didn't understand what the Hollywood accent was. I think that was what we were hearing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Lon Chaney Jr. is a pretty amazing actor. And really, I feel like I'm just trying to transport myself back in time to imagine what it must have been like to see these monsters for the first time.
Terrifying,
absolutely. But even with the limitations, I mean, when I say limitations, at the time they were pioneers.
Well, I mean, when you think about the people freaking out seeing a train on screen for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
And then you strike that and you go, okay, well, there are several scenes in the movie The Wolfman where Lon Chaney looks past the screen. It's not like he's looking at the camera. It's like he's looking past the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And is kind of moving in that direction. That was probably fucking horrifying back then when that movie came out.
Yeah, the breaking of the fourth wall.
Yep.
So yeah, the Wolfman, though, I mean, I feel like all of these monster films, they have their place in history, and their, everything else is sort of resting on their shoulders. So,
Oh, sure.
for as much shit as I talked about remakes earlier, I understand trying to nod to these movies, including the Wolfman. So, Kane, what is your impression of the film?
This was probably my favorite of the Universal films, mostly because it was my dad's favorite.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up thinking that Wolfman was the best. I didn't remember how fucking big of a creep Lawrence Tolbert was.
Yeah, he sucked.
Yeah, he's awful. He was a terrible, terrible person. The makeup effects, I think, are really fun, especially when you think about what they were working with.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a mixture of makeup and camera work. I had always been under the impression that Lon Chaney had done his own makeup. I was a little disheartened to discover that it was actually done by Jack Pierce.
Yeah.
And Lon Chaney just suffered through it.
Well, Lon Chaney, in other films, though, he most certainly contributed to his own.
Well, Lon Chaney Sr. definitely did.
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Sr. was known as the man with 1,000 faces.
Oh, so I just confused the two?
Lon Chaney Jr. is the son of Lon Chaney, and I'm sure he did some makeup stuff, but
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr. was not as prolific as his father was.
Gotcha. No, I think not to make it my turn again, but what's interesting to me about the Frankenstein and the Wolfman is that you have these characters that are sort of created in a sense, not by accident, at least in Frankenstein's case, but there's like this. It's like the monster isn't necessarily 100% the bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
as you would expect, or as monsters in more current horror films are. You don't have sympathy for the monsters in a lot of today's horror films. Most of them
Sure.
are like slashers and murderers. But these monsters, although they did a bit of murdering, they're definitely more relatable maybe, and more, you just kind of connect with them a little differently.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody have anything else?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, pretty much sums it all up.
All right. If you watched The Wolfman,
Which you
let
should.
us know what you think. You can find us at WeGiveYouBrainworms.com. Again, we remind you to review us on your favorite podcasting apps. And if you do the YouTube, like and subscribe.
And click the bell.
Click it.
And next week, we are covering The Mummy.
I'll be drunk.
I might join you.
It's a big surprise. Joe drunk.
Stay in school. Don't take drugs.
Or do it.
Ignore that. Yeah, do all of those things. Leave school, do drugs.
Au revoir. Bela Lugosi's dead.